Everybody, it's Larry the GM, and welcome to my YouTube channel. And for the folks watching on X/Twitter, we're going to do our daily lineup analysis. We'll be try to be quick, but there's some interesting stuff going on with tonight's game, guys. So if I get off on a rabbit trail, I'll try to keep it short. But hey, let's talk about what we expect to see with the Astros and the Blue Jays. As I talked about with the series preview earlier today, and you can check that out on the YouTube channel as well, where I covered the whole series. You know, the Astros are getting a really tough shot here early in the season. So you know they're definitely being challenged by getting the Yankees first and the Blue Jays second, who are two of the three best teams I believe in the American League with the Astros. So let's cover what we got. So now, folks, a lot of people. Well, let me do my advertisements first. Folks, if you're watching this video on the X and Twitter side, please jump over to YouTube, like the video on YouTube, um, join the channel, subscribe to the channel. We're almost 100 folks, and I really would ask anybody that if you come watch the video, if you like them at all, please subscribe to the channel on the YouTube side. It's going to definitely help our exposure and get us out there even more. So please do that. While you're thinking about Larry the GM content, you can jump over to the Larry the GM website and also subscribe to or join as a member to be either a premium member, which means you will get the series previews I did earlier after this series, because they're going to be only to premium members and Moneymaker members after this. And then if you want to see the kind of data I'm about to go over, the Moneymaker data, then please join up to be a Moneymaker. And guys, here's what I'll say: I am if you want to watch the tracker, I'm tracking the recommendations I make, and we will see how they play out. And if you want to join in after you see enough of data to know that old Larry the GM's not crazy, then fair enough. So I will say that given the data I have for today, I think I was too harsh on my previous grades as I went backward and tried to say, well, did I get that one right? Did I get that one right? I think I actually missed. I think I might have gotten a few more right than I thought I did. But regardless, we'll track it going forward, and I'll be even more clear exactly which action I would take. And that leads us to the first and second disclaimer here. So, well, let me finish the thought. So, to get that content, either do on the website, you're going to want to jump in as a Moneymaker, or on the Patreon site, you're going to want to be a Moneymaker member on the Patreon site to get this content. Okay, guys, there's the advertisement. Disclaimers. Like, guys, I am doing the nearly impossible thing and trying to give you action for daily baseball games. And the baseball is not a sport that lends itself to that. I believe that much in my system and believe that it can help give you the best odds. And so that's what I'll be doing with the rest of this article. But don't gamble money. Number one, don't gamble where it's illegal. And two, don't gamble money you can't afford to bet. And the other part of this is that a lot of this is going to come off as pretty blunt, because hey, I'm writing this for the Moneymakers, right? And I don't want to lose them any money. So I'm going to be straightforward with them and with you in these previews. And we're not that I'm going to talk about what I think can happen in tonight's game, not what I necessarily want to happen. Right. So that's some important things to understand as we get into this. All right. So there's the links. If you decide after watching the video you want to jump into the Moneymaker space, there's your videos. There's your links. If you missed the series guide, jump on that. It has the video attached to it, and please join us there. I will be back at 7 o'clock tonight to do a watch party, and I hope that we make it a party. Let's hope the Astros win. Sorry about you hearing the background noise of my dog. She loves dinner time. So watch party 7 o'clock. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about how this data that I'm presenting to you on the series guide and this moneymaker content, how it integrates when it'll revolutionize the way you watch a baseball game. Okay, guys, that's really what I'll tell you. If you guys understand, I recognize what I'm about to show may not be easy to see. I think it's easier to see, easier to follow when the action's actually happening. And I can tell you, it'll see. Look at this number here. This number is telling us this is not a great matchup. That's why Joe Espada just called for a pinch hitter. That's why they're changing pitchers right now. That's the kind of data we're going to do, and I'm going to actually be live with the actual spreadsheets, and we'll follow the pitching changes, and you'll have the live data tables that you have for the starters here. All right, so there you go. That's 7 o'clock tonight. So please come back with me on. I will not be broadcasting the game. You'll have to have the game on, and we'll all talk about what we're seeing in the game. Is that fair enough, guys? Like, I don't want to get any trouble. I won't even have the volume on. I'll have the MLB at bat and be aware of what's happening and follow it with the spreadsheet from the LarryTheGM website. All right, so here we go. We're gonna be focusing a lot on next little bit data here, and let's talk about Ronel Blanco versus the Toronto Blue Jays. So there's a lot of red on the right side of the screen. That's not a good sign. The Blue Jays are bringing in Ernie Clement today, and I was going to say this is one of those things that I'm like, okay, should I say that they're going to start Ernie Clement? And when I did the preview, I could have said that because you can see Ernie Clement 4.12 xWOBA, but he leads the team, and in the mix of his talent versus what Ronel Blanco throws. So is it really interesting that Ernie Clement, and the reason for that is this number right here, guys, is this high xWOBA stats versus breaking pitches. Now, the reality is, Ernie Clement doesn't have a ton of data in this database, so it's a little bit touchy whether we want to go with that. But that number sky high. Now, what I would also say is, don't be. This is one thing that this is where we'll talk about when Ernie Clement comes up. This is what we're going to talk about. What will Ronel Blanco throw Ernie Clement? Because if you're Ronel Blanco and you see these three numbers, which one are you going to throw to? You're going to throw to the third one, even though Ronel Blanco's hardly at all thrown that off-speed pitch. Don't be surprised if we don't see it tonight versus Ernie Clement as a way to get him out. So there you go. Ernie Clement, best option for the Blue Jays. Obviously, Vladimir Guerrero, a great option for the Blue Jays. And you can see some of the other players, and there's a lot of blue here. So what's interesting about that, I refer to, so what I'm doing with this version of the matchup guide today, for the first time, I'm actually showing you where there's actual live odds that you could go to and place a wager if it's legal for you to do. And so Ernie Clement isn't available on Bovada, which is where my reference point is. So you'll have to go figure out, if you're so inclined, or maybe if you're in Vegas, if you can get action on Ernie Clement, you'll have to consider he does have the best number. So you may take all the disclaimers relative to sample size and say, you'll pass on that. Vladimir Guerrero at over 1.5 total bases. That does not include walks. So if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. got a double, who went 1 for 4 with a double, you'd win this bet. If he got two singles, you'd win this bet. It's a minus 110 on Bovada. Dalton Varsho, the 348 on that, you can get the over 1.5 total hits, runs, and RBIs. So that's where I would put the action on Dalton Varsho. I think it's really Varsho batting fourth after all the other players in front of him. We have some really good numbers there. I think it's a really good opportunity that Varsho's if Varsho gets a hit and there's a runner on, he may get the RBI, and then you're going to win that bet. So there's my two official ones because there's no odds on Ernie Clement. But if you wanted my two daily fantasy picks, or you want my fantasy picks, if you can get Ernie Clement on the fantasy team, then get him on your fantasy team. He probably will come at a fairly low price for your daily fantasy users. If you want to put live betting action, then there you go, Guerrero and Varsho for that. The runs model of Ronald Blanco versus the Blue Jays comes out to be a xWOBA predicted of 350. That translates in my xWOBA model of 5.6 runs tonight. That would be if Blanco was in the whole game. I don't expect him stretched out that far, which does pose another challenge tonight. In the Astros bullpen, we do not have Hader available, and we don't have Abreu available. So take that into account relative to some of these, whether or not you think you want to put action on any of these other players as well. We may have the fourth or the same story once again with the Astros. The starters does well or does well enough, and the bullpen doesn't. Not that I don't want that to happen, but you can see that storyline playing out given where the Astros are, given the challenges of the Blue Jays lineup, which is, again, if you go back to the series guide, you'll remember that's a really good, really, really good lineup. All right, so let's talk about for the Blue Jays. They have Bowden Francis, and you may say, well, who the heck is Bowden Francis, Larry? Well, completely transparent, I wasn't really familiar with Bowden Francis. I've done a little bit, talked to a couple friends, and done some research. Bowden Francis is starting his first major league game tonight. He pitched for the Blue Jays last year. I think he had I think it's 36 innings of relief work, and he turns 28 years old in 21 days. He did really well in his limited 36 innings of relief work last year. That's what's in the database. Those 36 innings of relief work. So it's just we're fundamentally different. We're asking him to start this year or start this tonight, or the Blue Jays are, and he's got last year he had a 1.73 ERA, a little more realistic, probably FIP of 3.86. So here's the challenge. Francis is the sort of player that's a real challenge for me in the system. He's got enough pitches for me to at least consider looking at and using that data. He does not have enough pitches that I would feel comfortable with some of the splits of those pitches. Basically, as you can see in the table, his splits are pretty close to half and half. Well, he's throwing 58% fastballs. He's throwing 35% curveballs, 7% sliders, 44% fastballs, 32%, 33% versus righties, and 23% versus 23% off sliders versus righties. You notice that I changed the table slightly for Francis to get me a little more visibility. Francis doesn't have it. Well, he didn't have an off-speed pitch last year. He actually has used what's labeled an off-speed pitch in the database, the split finger fastball, considered or labeled an off-speed pitch. That pitch doesn't. There's no data for that pitch in 2023, but he was throwing it in spring training at about I think it was like 5%. Don't hold me to that, but it was about 5% of his pitches, somewhere in that range. So, guys, I'm sorry, I got to chat it up, and I'm not even paying attention. I'm sorry. Let me get the chat going. So what, Jonathan? I'll get to that question in a minute. So, what the challenge for Francis, right, is like, hey, we're not 100% sure of what we're going to get from Francis. The Blue Jays are asking him to do something he didn't do. The database isn't very big, and quite honestly, the answer is unsustainably small. This data projects Francis to do a better job than I think I remember any pitcher doing versus the Astros last year, and better than certainly any pitcher this year, and better than any Astros pitcher that I remember last year. He is projected to hit to hold the Astros to a 296 xWOBA. Remember, average xWOBA is 319. That would mean that he's holding the great Astros offense to an xWOBA of 296, which would be about 3.9 runs a game. Guys, I don't believe that, right? So what I would tell you is I wouldn't even consider any actions on Bowden Francis. I don't know if I said it as I went through it, but I would not consider any action with Blanco because I'm just not. I need to see a few more starts with Blanco before that, and I wouldn't bet against him. I wouldn't bet with him. You know, I'm not as confident about the pitching side of this making a bet on the pitching side of this that I am telling you what the numbers are, right? So what I'll say, guys, is that there's two players in the Astros lineup. You can see them right there in red that project to do well against Bowden, and you can see why, because Bowden versus lefties overall 310 xWOBA versus righties overall 281. Also, knowing that Jordan Alvarez hits curveballs excellently, and even though Bowden Francis, guys, this is Bowden Francis's xWOBA throwing that curveball 0.76. That's impossible. That's basically saying the hitters have no chance versus that Bowden Francis curveball. What I'm going to tell you is I'm going to be really interested to see how that plays out. We're going to be talking about that during the game. Like let's track Bowden Francis's pitches here. Is he using the split finger that he used in spring training? Is he throwing a ton of curveballs? Is he what is his pitch mix? Is he using the slider at all? Because his slider versus lefties was terrible, and the slider versus righties is not good. So when my normal data table, which is called has a middle column called breaking pitches, it was a mix of the sliders and curves, and I felt like, well, I think for Bowden Francis, the differential between those two pitches, the performance statistics related to those two pitches is so vastly different that I really wanted to give you guys the granularity that I normally don't do, and I don't. The problem with that is it leads to a database, sample size issue that I'm not even less comfortable with. So, guys, the point of this is like the sample size, what Bowden Francis is being asked to do, and the fact that this is his first start, I would say let's stay away from the Bowden Francis action, okay? But let's look at the two players that you could probably place a daily bet on almost every day and feel pretty good about it, except maybe certain lefties. And we already had one of those. So guys, don't place a bet on Jordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker, and I went 1-for-1 in that. And so I would feel comfortable putting the action on Tucker and Alvarez. Okay, and I'll show you what it is here. Alvarez, 449 over 1.5 bases is minus 125. Tucker hits 374 xWOBA over 1.5 bases. It's a plus 105. So there's where you go, guys. And again, the runs projected 3.9. So Jonathan, I do not do this for every team. I do this for whoever the Astros are playing. It's a mountain of work. I've now made it that more automated that if somebody was like, Larry, we will pay you to do this for every team, for every matchup, I have the means to do it, but someone's going to have to pay me to do it. It's a significant amount of money. But the action here, what we're really focused on is like, what's the best action for the Astros hitters? What's the best action for other hitters facing the Astros, the other teams facing the Astros? Okay, so guys, that's that. Give you guys a few minutes to ask questions. Jonathan, I've got it down, and I'll actually show that a little bit during the game tonight because you guys are going to be like, well, what happens when this guy comes in, Larry? What about this pitcher versus this pitcher? We can do all that with the database I have set up now. So it's not too bad to actually do it, but I to do it and then to write about it. I mean, if I could just send all the spreadsheet data over to somebody and then automatically put all the data, write the article, maybe AI will do that for me someday. But that's not that's not the way the old man works right now. So, um, any other questions about this game tonight? Again, we'll be back on at 7 o'clock. I'm gonna get something to eat. Probably have a little drink. Get ready for the game for the party tonight. But there's your action. So we got Ronel Blanco going against a very formidable Blue Jays lineup that looks to be a good matchup. We've got Bowden Francis, a relative unknown to me before today. I've learned more about Bowden Francis than I ever knew possible. With his absolutely wicked curveball versus right-handed hitters. So we will be watching to see if that's real, and we'll also be watching to see if he does some split finger fastballs in the action. So, guys, any last call for questions, last call for comments. Otherwise, I will let you go. Let's enjoy the game. Hopefully, this gave you an idea of how to use this. Jordan and Tuck need to get it done tonight. Yes, Jonathan, and that's kind of been the theme, and that's been part of the problem. Jordan Alvarez has not been Jordan Alvarez so far this year, and that's why they're on. I mean, I don't want to blame Jordan Alvarez because he's the best player they got, but when Jordan Alvarez is hitting the way he's hit so far this year, that's been a problem. If Jordan Alvarez was hitting like Jordan Alvarez, I think the Astros may even be 2-2. Um, so, guys, just please jump in tonight, join the party. Hopefully, you guys learned something. Hopefully, you are seeing some things with the with this data and how you could use it. We're going to have a couple more games free, and then you'll have to be asking to pay. Have to pay for it on the moneymakers because this data is very valuable, as you might be able to imagine. And I'll prove that. I will make public the scorecard of what we said and how it worked out. So, Jonathan, I think theoretically it's supposed to work. I'm a little old school. I do. I mean, I can show you this, right? I do wonder if it's. I know everybody says, "Hey, I love having Tucker protecting Alvarez and Alvarez and Tucker together." That I think that worked a lot last year when we had the time that we had Brantley. You had Brantley batting sixth or seventh. I think that made that made that workable. There's no. I mean, Yainer Diaz is somewhat of a pseudo lefty with the splits he has, so maybe that works. But I get a little concerned, and I wouldn't change Alvarez from batting second. I guess what I'm saying is, I thought about that maybe Bregman should be batting third, and then Tucker should be batting fourth. Um, don't I haven't studied it. That's I just think lineup wise, having this long series, I think it sets them up to being able to be abused by other teams' pitching staffs and the relief pitchers, and I think that's where I'm going to go explore. I think that's going to be a way I'm going to explore it. Does what they're doing with the lineup make make it easier on the opposing manager to set up versus the platoons? And I think it does, and I think we may figure out that the way is with them. So, and Bregman just destroys left-handed pitching, and I just think if they bring a lefty in to theoretically, because and I know people say, well, Alvarez and Tucker both hit lefties really well. Yeah, they do, but they're not as good versus lefties in general as they are versus righties. So if you bring and Bregman is far better, has been far better versus lefties and righties for his career. So I would try to take that. I would try to take advantage of that platoon. I think there's ways, and that's why. I mean, despite the fact that he didn't really perform, that's why it made sense to have Abreu there. Abreu had the same profile, but I mean, Abreu just hasn't been hitting like a player that needs to be at the top of the lineup. Abreu batting sixth. Some people argue he should be batting seventh or lower. I have more hope for Jose Abreu than probably the sum total of the fan base. But yeah, I will be interested if we put Bregman in between Alvarez and Tucker at some point if the offense does not get going. Which I will maybe I'll talk about it tonight. I do have some interesting data I'm monitoring. I'm not real sure I want to talk about it after 4 games, but I'll say this, guys: the offense is not near as bad as you think it is if you believe the Expo data. And people that were on Twitter Space with me today know what I'm talking about. So, all right, I'll leave it with that. I'll leave that teaser for you. We'll see you back in half an hour. I'm going to get something to eat. You guys do the same, and we will come back and have a party in about 30 minutes. Take care. Go Astros. Bye bye.